Your left.
Follow. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Amar, Hyderabad, India. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Is it allowed to trim the area parallel to the ear? Does it come under beard? Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Question says, or comes from Hyderabad, India. Assalamu alaikum. Is it permissible to trim the area parallel to the ear? Is it, or does it fall under the beard? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. The ulama of Islam, they say that the beard, obviously, is the hair on the jawbone, it's the hair of the chin, and it's the hair of the two cheeks. The hair of the two cheeks. This is the lihya that you'll find in many classical lexicons and dictionaries of the Arabic language upon which the ulama depend for defining terms. So therefore, whatever falls under that, what I've just mentioned, is from the beard, and it is unlawful to be shaven. And the correct view is that it should not be trimmed and touched unless a person is under the understanding of the qabla, the hair that exceeds the fist. Other than that, there is no considerable view for trimming the beard and fluffing up the beard and touching up the beard, according to what we understand and what we believe. Okay? Those are the only two views in my book, and Allah knows best. My knowledge is limited. I'm nobody to have a book. But if you're asking me a question, I can only tell you what I know and feel, is that those are the only two views worth consideration. Those who say the beard can be trimmed as long as you have some hair on your face, as long as you have a shadow, as long as weak, in opposition to the ahadith and the clear, pure understanding of a'ful liha, leave the beards. And the Prophet ﷺ, he never said for a man to be bearded. He never said have hair on your face. How can gold be turned into copper? What type of alchemy are we dealing with right now? How can you take gold and turn it into brass? Give her that. How you go from here to there? The Prophet said, leave the beard. And then they say, just have some hair. That's what the hadith means. That's topsy-turvy. Everyone understand that? Leave the beard. Let the beard go. Let the beard drape. And they say that means have what? Some hair. Multahi. As long as someone sees you and say he's bearded, even that can't have that. The Prophet never said that. He said, leave the beard. What language is there when a person says, leave it alone, and you says, oh, just touch it a little bit. Or don't touch it too much. Can't have that. You understand this? So those are the only two views that we consider to be correct and considerable for debate among the people of knowledge. So therefore, talking about someone's ear, parallel to the ear, above the ear, etc. Obviously, that which is right here is the beginning of your hair. Khalas. You have a bald head or you trim your hair. Khalas. Even down to here. Being technical, that bone right there. Feel that? Being technical. That's as far as the hair that comes on the cheek of the man, then my view is that hair should be left alone. Because some dictionaries, they say, وَجُمِيعُ شَعْرِ الْوَجْهِ, and all of the hair of the face. Some brothers, they trim it, they shape it up, etc. Al-Muhim, if it was me, if I had a full beard, it would be from here. I would leave this under there, some hair on the neck, etc. That's one thing. Hair on the Adam's apple is not necessarily a part of the lihya, according to those books. And Allah Azza wa Jalla truly knows best. Famagusta, North Cyprus. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. What is the ruling on drinking liquids directly from the mouth of a transparent plastic bottle? Question comes from Famagusta, North Cyprus. Assalamu alaikum. What is the ruling on drinking liquids or beverages directly from the plastic bottle? Is it permissible? Is it disliked, etc.? There are hadiths that state that the Prophet ﷺ forbade a person from drinking min famis siqa. He forbade a person from drinking from the mouth of the water skin. From the mouth of the water skin. And there are different interpretations of this. Pass me that bottle, please. Different interpretations. Pass me the other bottle, please. Jazakallah khairan. Okay, so, or in your can.
Or like, I just use this. This is fine. This is do. This is do. Arizona green tea, huh? With ginseng and honey. Huh? Like, me drinking from this. One thing. Me drinking from this. Me drinking from this. And me drinking from this. Can I see what's in this bottle? Clearly, I can see what's in it. Is there a lizard or a scorpion or a worm or a bug or a fly or something harmful in this? No. Are we clear this or not? Can I see what's in this? Not necessarily. What's the chances of something foul being in a can of an industrialized company like Arizona? Slim to none. Clear this or not? Now, um, let's say, let's say that this is a water bottle that we're all going to share. And I just start chugging it down, drinking. Now you got to drink after me. Do you want my breath, my saliva, what I had for lunch in your water or on your bottle to taste after me? So there's a difference between the siqa, a water skin, which is water for everyone, and between someone's specific personal water skin cup, let alone the content of the water skin is transparent. It's not like an actual water skin that's sitting there for some time, in which a bug can creep into it, or dust can creep into it, etc. And in many hadiths like this, in which the Prophet ﷺ forbids a way of drinking or blowing on the food, and he's talking about as a whole, as a community, and not necessarily your specific drink. I'm the only one drinking out of this tea. Is it still prohibited for me to go, it's a little hot? Does it mean that? Many people have a misunderstanding of these hadiths. And oftentimes the Sahaba, they would eat things or they would drink things and they would be passed around. And the Prophet ﷺ, he was mindful of the people's feelings and their tastes. And he didn't want anyone to enjoy the water and another brother not enjoy the water because, Fulan, he just, you understand this? What happened to that? So therefore, with that being said, if it's your own personal water bottle, I would say that it does not fall under that hadith. And Allah surely knows best.
KM Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Barakallahu feek, Sheikh. I've always been told the Muslims should never seek fame, yet I learned he shouldn't be unknown and greedy.
Question comes from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Assalamu alaikum. I've been taught that a Muslim should not seek fame. And I've also heard or been taught that a Muslim should be known in the community. What's correct? How to seek balance? It's a very important question. And it falls under what I just said about misunderstandings. People misunderstanding these texts. What's important is go seek knowledge, learn and study. If you're studying sincerely for Allah and you're implementing that knowledge and you're qualified, you're talented and skilled to teach it, Allah will make you known and famous. And you don't have to stick your neck out. Allah Azza wa Jalla will raise your status. And it will be known that you have ilm and that you've studied and that you are a source of benefit for the community. That's first and foremost. But you may go somewhere or you may go to a place in which there's an ignorant person leading the Muslims. There's a total ignoramus talking out of the side of his neck. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And you may have to make yourself known to silence them. He says, I'm the best of the sons of Adam. Wala fakhr. No pride, no conceit, but I am the best. And he explained about what would take place on the day of judgment. And when the people will pass out, and when they'll be brought back to consciousness. Everyone understand this? And all the people will be passed out except for Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. And the Prophet, he told the Sahaba these hadiths, or this hadith, to teach them about shafa'ah, intercession. And to teach them about the terror of the day of judgment. So he's teaching them and showing them why they need to take from him. And many of the companions, when it comes to the Sifat Salat al-Nabi sallallahu I know the Prophet's prayer more than anyone else. He said, place me in charge of the grain stores because I'm trustworthy. I'm reliable, I'm learning. Everyone understand this? So proof in the Quran and Sunnah for a person to praise him or herself if there is a need, if there's a necessity, and if it isn't a means of ghurur, of conceit. But to establish and lay down the law. Listen, you be quiet. Shukran. We heard enough of you. I got this. You have to do that sometime. You have to take charge of the situation. What? Sometimes. If there's an ignorant person who doesn't know his place. But that should not be your first move. Huh? Don't ever forget the famous principle that at the end of the day, knowledge will win. Knowledge reigns supreme over nearly everyone. Everyone understand this? As the famous poet said, knowledge reigns supreme over nearly everyone. There are a few ignorant people that refuse to accept the virtue of knowledge. But at the end of the day, if you have true knowledge and you learn it and you have the ability to teach, it's going to happen. Someone's going to point you out. Someone's one way or another, you're going to have your opportunity and just be willing to take the opportunity. So, bidnai ta'ala, don't rush for fame. Don't rush to be known. Don't rush to have notoriety, etc. Allah will give it to you. Just focus on studying. But there is an imbalance in this. Some brothers that go overseas, they study and have a great deal of knowledge, and they don't travel anywhere. They don't give no classes. They don't write no books. They don't translate no books. They don't do no dawah. And there's a gym hidden in the middle of ignorance. That's unfair. You have all of this skill, all of this talent, and you're not doing anything with it. That's not right. I don't understand this. So you have to be able to take the opportunity and be in, as they say, the right place at the right time. I don't understand this. So there's a balance. Not to just be hidden and isolated from the people, and not to rush forth for fame and for praise. What's important is the knowledge will speak for itself. And Allah knows best. Question comes from Toronto, Canada. When are you coming back? My Lord knows best. We hope to come back, inshallah ta'ala, before the winter is over. Before the winter is over. Brother Samid, right now, talk to him. He's responsible for us coming back. If he invites us to come back, we'll come back. And if Simon says that we can't come back, then and Allah knows best.
Dave in Houston, Texas. Salam Sheikh Mufti. May Allah preserve you. I apologize if my cup is full, but what is your favorite thing to drink besides tea?
Question comes from Houston, Texas. Assalamu alaikum. Please forgive me if my cup is full. What is your favorite thing to drink besides tea? That's a very difficult question. Who said I had a second favorite drink? It may not be one. It might just be what? Tea or nothing. I don't know him. I mean, everybody likes water. I love water. I enjoy water. Like different juices. Cranberry juice is good. Orange juice is good, especially if it's like freshly squeezed. Things like this. Yani, if it wasn't a tea that I'm drinking. Obviously, juices that are sugary and fructose and this. I'm not acting like I'm a health guru. I'm not faking the funk. Unfortunately, I have junk and things that I eat. I'm not acting like I'm holier than thou when it comes to health, which many people do. Many people, they demonize high fructose corn syrup and this and that, blah, 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 and they drink it themselves. Or they talk about organic and they drink this and they eat this. I'm not acting like I'm a pious health person. But in general, certain drinks and certain things like this, I drink. You see what I'm saying to you? Unless it's like a real type of juice. The percentage of juice is high and it's actual juice. You see what I'm saying to you? And most importantly, drink gotta be ice cold. Gotta be what? Ice cold. And Allah knows best. Fadal.
UW London, UK. Assalamu alaikum. When you're analyzing hadith, is there a specific name or terminology for it? E.g., when you break down the sentence in Arabic, is it called Allah?
Question comes from where?
London, UK.
London, UK. When you break down a hadith, when you analyze a hadith, is there a specific term used for that scientific practice? Like breaking down a sentence in Arabic called i'rab, etc. Yes. That's called fiqh al-hadith. Sharh al-hadith. Fiqh al-sunnah or al-istinbat. Al-istinbat. Al-istikhraj. Istinbat al-ahkam. Istikhraj al-ma'ani. Yes, deducing. No, that's what it's called, and Allah knows best.
GK Live, may Allah grant you tawfiq and strong disciples will pass on the second method of the Shaykh. I mean, can one use cannabis oil to cure a sickness?
Further?
It is mentioned it doesn't contain THC.
Question comes from BK. Supposing that's what? Brooklyn? The coffin, as they used to say back in the day. And may Allah Azza wa Jalla bless you with strong disciples who will carry on the Hadith disciple school of thought. I mean, but before you get strong disciples, you may have to be purged of weak disciples. Before you can grow the flowers in the garden, the weeds have to be what? No doubt about that. The beetles and anything else which is eating in the good crops, Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. At the end of the day, Jazakallah khairan for the dua. Can one use cannabis oil for healing or for medicine and it does not contain THC? The brief answer, the general summarized answer is I would say yes, it's permissible. Allah Azza wa Jalla truly knows, but my limited knowledge would lead me to say that it's permissible to use. Why is khamar haram? Except for the fact that it intoxicates. Hadith of Aisha and Sahih Muslim, every drink which intoxicates is haram. If the drink doesn't intoxicate, then it's not haram. And khamar, wine, isn't demonized because it's wine, but it's demonized because of what it does and what it causes and what it leads to of drunkenness, of zina, of murder, of car accidents, of etc. That's why. So if we have non-alcoholic wine or non-alcoholic beer that is no different than ginger ale or grape juice, same. And if you have oil that has no type of THC, it's no type of intoxicating agent, then it's no different than using grapeseed or coconut oil or whatever type of oil that people use for one reason or another. So the Sharia is not always dogmatic. It's based off of wisdom and it's based off of reason. There's a reason why this product is haram because it does this. So if it doesn't do that, then it's like what? Any other product. Okay, that's in brief. We spoke about this before. That's in brief. Obviously, people are extremists when it comes to marijuana, Mary Jane. They call it back in the day, weed, pot, whatever name you give it. People that go extreme and supporting it or going against it. Everyone understand this? They go extreme. And oftentimes they're very hypocritical. They take all types of pills that destroy your liver and your kidney, that form habits, that give you euphoria immediately to get you high. You get addicted to this pill. That's fine. That's medical necessity. But weed, vape, THC, astaghfirullah, you can't use the oil, you can't use the hemp, you can't use soap in it, it's haram, it's evil, get rid of it. But your closet is full of khamr. Your medicine cabinet in the bathroom is a chest of what? Khamr. You take this that knocks you out, that wakes you up, that makes you feel like this, that's okay? What fatwa is passed on that? And just because it's a fatwa for something doesn't mean that the other thing is automatically halal. Just because there's no fatwa saying that caffeine is haram, it doesn't mean that caffeine isn't what? Haram. And I don't feel caffeine is haram. I don't believe that. But I'm trying to make a point here. Everyone understand this? If some ulama spoke about cigarettes and tobacco, and they didn't give a fatwa about caffeine, it does not mean that the caffeine is not, the caffeine cannot be placed under the microscope, under the lens. Everyone can understand? Caffeine causes this, it does this, it's habit forming, etc. And there was a time in which caffeine was among illegal drugs. And people classify caffeine as a drug. You understand this? So therefore, why do people take such a hard line stance against marijuana? And they're so lax when it comes to these heavy pills that destroy your body and cause you to be addicted. One of the reasons behind this, as we've explained many times before, is the history of cannabis and the history of its discovery and the people that used it and how those other people who entered their countries and obviously conquered their countries and colonized their countries and raped their countries looked at those people as being savages and every aspect of life being inferior to their, from religion on down. Religion on down. Everyone clear on this or not? Religion to the way that you look and your DNA and your blood is inferior to us. So therefore, the Christian way, the honorable cross and the good book, what was the stance that it took against cannabis years ago? The people still live in the shade of that in 2018. And that's why you find the people who support cannabis the most, smoking it, using it, vaping it, legalizing it, are the people that go against those other Christian values as well, such as hippie movement. And obviously that leads to the LGBTQ movement, in which there's no such thing as formal religion or formal race or superiority or male and female. There's none of those things. Everyone is welcome and loved. And the natural way takes precedence over the FDA and the commercial way and the industrialized way. Everyone trying to see the point I'm trying to get to? So there were people who took stances against cannabis because it went against their formal standardized way. Everyone saying this? And it got a very, very, very bad name and a very bad reputation, but not the other heavy drugs and chemicals. And there are reasons why. There are what? There are reasons why. So last Friday, I wanted to mention more about the history of illegal drugs in the United States and in the world today, but I didn't get a chance to. In brief, we know that drugs in the ancient times were used as a means of spirituality and religion. Spirituality and religion. And drugs were only used by high priests when they wanted to communicate with gods and their deities and leave the human state into an elevated spiritual state. They would take drugs, make them high, and do certain dances and rituals and sacrifices, or human sacrifices, etc. So what happened? One theory is that when there were conquistadors that came from Spain and Portugal, and they traveled to the New World, the Americas, Central America, Mexico, okay, the Incas, the Aztecs, etc. These people here, and they enslaved them, and they pillaged their land, and their main thing that they were looking, the main thing was looking for was gold, to support their churches and their temples and the things back in mainland Europe. So as they enslaved these people, they noticed a unique ability for these Indians, these indigenous people, to work and to have a great deal of stamina and strength, especially in places of high altitude. High altitude, the Andes, mountain ranges, which are hundreds of feet above sea level. And they would be out of breath and panting, about to fall out. And they would find that these people were being whipped and tortured, their women were being raped, their country was being pillaged and sacked, and they still had a great deal of stamina to work in high altitude. So they observed them, and they saw certain things that they were eating. And from the things that they would eat and chew on was a chalky type of paste, an alkaline type of paste, along with certain green leaves. They would mix them together, and they would chew them. And when they chewed on them, they broke up the cells, they ruptured the cell walls in the leaves. It would give them chemicals that gave them strength and energy and vigor, even though they were so high up above sea level. So the European conquerors, they noticed, and they took this matter. They took these leaves, they took this pasty stuff, and they took it back to Europe. And obviously, they added chemicals, they broke it down, they did this, so on and so on and so forth. Germany, Italy, and these other European countries, and that was the rise of modern drugs. That's where your morphine comes from. And obviously, the same applies to the Far East with regards to heroin and the poppy seed. It's the same trend. Wherever those people went and colonized the land, they took those natural things and made them into chemical-based things. And that's where we have opium and morphine, etc. Everyone understand this? And then we have the modern day drugs and the usage of those drugs. Coca-Cola had cocaine in it. Cough syrup had cocaine in it. Codeine today. And there are many, many other substances that people use that have these types of drugs. And that's why they call it a drug store. Everyone understand this? And the only reason which caused these people to make these drugs illegal, as we said in the khutbah, was racism and prejudice and discrimination. This was a well-known fact in the 40s and the 30s and the 50s in the southern parts of the United States. If coloreds took drugs, they were out of control. They were wild, raging savages. When these Negroes take cocaine, they want to rape white women, our pure white women. But white people, we can take cocaine because we're civilized, and they're uncivilized. In the Far East, the Chinese railroad workers who were being enslaved and treated like animals and rats in the street, if they took drugs to soothe their pain and their suffering and their harsh treatment, they were savages. They couldn't smoke and do these drugs responsibly. But the people that were in charge of them, they could do it what? Responsibly. Until there were more studies that were done, and people actually started using their brains and getting out of the prejudice and looking at color or race and seeing the drug for what it actually is. And they made certain steps to limit and to restrict the usage of certain drugs. and the export and the import of certain drugs until a final step was made in which they made them what? Illegal. And a very interesting fact is that modern psychology, let alone dream interpretation, is based off of drug addiction. Who was the one who found the whole science of dream interpretation and psychology of the modern era? He was a well-known cocaine addict. You know his name? Of course. And he was a well-known, admitted user of cocaine. And many of his theories and many of his opinions and views were based off of him snorting cocaine. And it's still in the books to this day. Isn't that an interesting fact? But if it was a person who was Chinese or Indian or black or African, they would say he's a wild savage, high off of drugs. So there's a very, very, very long history behind drugs. A very long, deep history. And it's not just so simple, halal, haram, it's haram because they say it's a drug. It's not that simple. And from that history is the history of cannabis and how it was looked upon and how useful it was back in the day, but who it was useful to. And the history of medicine in the United States and in the modern world. The natural way versus the standardized, industrialized way. And obviously we know who won the war. The herbalists, they lost the war. And the FDAs and these type of corporations, they won the war. And they made the final decision what is a good thing to take and what's a bad thing to take. The people nowadays are just beginning to gain momentum for cannabis. Because back in the day, cannabis was considered to be a miracle drug. It was a super plant. It was used for a whole list of ailments. Hemp was used for everything. But one reason or another, they demonized it. They called it the devil's weed. And it was abandoned for many, many, many years. The people are now just beginning to do what? Come out of that and unwrap that. And show the properties of cannabis. And what it can do for nerve damage. What it can do for cancer. What it can do for this. What it can do for that. Etc. And the list goes on. Everyone understand this or not? So therefore, there's certain people who take a balanced approach. And they say, if the THC is removed, if it doesn't of this strand, it isn't of this make, etc., then it's beneficial and it can be used. As some people even say, it's permissible to use it with THC in certain situations. Not all situations, but what? Certain situations of extreme measures, right? So it's permissible to take this major painkiller. What's the chances of the patient becoming addicted to it when they recover from the surgery? It's a big chance. I know many people that are addicted to pills or were addicted to pills. I have back pains, a brother told me. Severe back pains. And I can't stop taking the pills. Even though my back really doesn't hurt that much. And the Advil and these things, they don't do anything for me. So it's permissible to take that. But THC, cannabis, vaping is what? Totally, absolutely what? Hold on. That's what? It's contradiction. Everyone understand this? And we explained this in brief in the 5 minutes of faith. They're called the iron lung. Last year when we were in Toronto, about is it permissible to use intoxicants for medicinal necessity. If you say that it isn't, tell you, that's fine. There's proof of that. But that includes all types of what? Intoxicants, including those pills. And if you say that it is permissible in certain instances, certain times of necessity and extremism, then included in that is cannabis with THC. Or you take a balanced approach. Everyone understand this? So therefore, the oil that doesn't have those intoxicating agents, I don't see any reason from the Quran or the Sunnah to make it impermissible. Now one may say, well, it's going to lead people to smoking weed. It's going to lead them to take a lax stance towards weed. Maybe. But the same also applies to that bottle of tablets that you have. Or those heavy drugs that you take, that doctor gives you for your broken leg, or for depression or anxiety, or any other sickness that you have that makes you low and weak, that brings you down, and most importantly, it destroys the insides of your bodies when you take those pills for years. It's well known. It's what? It's well known. So therefore, marijuana, which isn't of a certain strand, that's one thing. Marijuana, which is not smoked, the harm of smoke on the throat, the tongue, the lips, the lungs, that's one thing. It's vaporized, or it's in an oil, or it's made into a powder, or whatever it is. They're different dawabit. They're different regulations with regards to any matter or substance in the deen. Everyone understand this? Any what? And it is not upon us to be hypocritical and to say, well, this is haram absolutely, but this is halal absolutely. Everyone understand this? Allahu Alam. This will be our last question tonight, inshallah.
Question from last night. They asked, when waswas that one is anchored unknowingly or that you are to converse?
Question comes from Missouri with regards to battling waswasa. The Prophet ﷺ, he gave us two simple solutions. فَلْيَسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ وَلْيَنْتَهِ. Seek Allah's refuge, ask Allah to protect you, and then fight yourself. You must practice self-control, and it may hurt in the beginning, or you may feel hopeless, or you may feel totally dominated. It may be so stressful, so much anxiety to stay away from it. But you must taste bitter before sweet. You have to suffer a little bit if you've allowed those waswasa to grow so strong and to fester. And it's not just going to come so simple and so easy. Coming off of any addiction or any problem that you have mentally or psychologically, whatever the case may be. So therefore, ask Allah to protect you. Seek Allah's refuge based off of those ayats and those hadith. In the sujood, late at night, the times of the day, ask Allah to protect you therefrom. And then you yourself must work hard. And you must try, you must put in the time and the effort to avoid falling victim to the waswasa. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, with this 1-2 punch and time and staying busy with beneficial knowledge and staying busy with righteousness and staying busy with beneficial company, righteous company, bi'idhnillah, it will go away. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. But don't think that it's going to come like a magic drug. It's going to take time and there's a process. It's a process. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Jazakumullahu khairan. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina Muhammad.